This happened a few weeks ago when I went back to my childhood neighborhood. I'm 35 now, a freelance graphic designer. I thought it would be nice to reconnect with old friends. My family home still stands, right next to the old treehouse I built with my friends. I always remember the good times there, but something about it has always haunted me. The first time I heard the laughter, I thought I was imagining things. It sounded like kids playing in the treehouse, much like we used to. When I looked up, the place looked the same. The windows were dirty, and the ladder creaked under my weight. The laughter stopped when I got closer. I felt uneasy. Something wasn't right. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the urge to go near the treehouse. I noticed strange messages carved into the wood. They were blurry, but they felt different, unsettling. My heart raced every time I looked at them, yet I couldn't look away. As dusk fell, I swore I saw a shadow darting from tree to tree. I called out, but only the branches creaked in reply. I felt cold, like a chill was wrapping around me. With each step closer to the treehouse, a chill ran down my spine. I hesitated on the rickety steps. I wanted to climb up, but something was holding me back. I tried to tell myself I was just tired. But at night, I heard the laughter again. It was quieter, more sinister. It felt like someone was lurking, playing a twisted game. One evening, I stood at the treehouse's base, staring. The sun was going down, casting long shadows. I thought I saw movement in the window, maybe a face? I called out, hoping to see someone, but there was only silence. Suddenly, laughter echoed from behind me. My heart raced, and I turned quickly, but there was no one there. The air felt thick, making it hard to breathe. Sometimes, I wonder if that treehouse is haunted by my own memories or something else entirely. My friends say memories fade, but I can't forget those days. What if that shadow was more than just a trick of the light? I didn't want to admit it, but I was really scared. I kept insisting it was all in my head. Then one night, the laughter grew louder. I went to the window feeling brave. I saw nothing outside, but a chill ran through me, and my hair stood up. My heart raced. I don't know what I encountered, but I still can't make sense of it all. It felt too real to be just my imagination. What really happened in that treehouse? Why does it still haunt me? Those questions hang in the air, twisting my thoughts. I always wanted to go back, but now I feel unsure. I wonder about the laughter and the shadows, and I still don't know if it was just me or something more. The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about the laughter. I decided to visit my old friend Matt. He lived just a few blocks away. Maybe he had some answers about the treehouse or the memories we shared. I knocked on his door, and he greeted me warmly. "Long time no see," he said with a smile. But as we settled into his living room, I noticed a flicker of concern cross his face when I mentioned the treehouse. His mood shifted, and the cheerful atmosphere turned heavy. "You shouldn't go there, man," he said, his tone serious. "You don't know what it was like after we all left. Things changed." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "What do you mean changed?" He hesitated, looking away. "I don't know if you remember the summer before we moved away, the time we were playing hide and seek?" I nodded. That was one of my favorite memories. I was the seeker while everyone else hid. But the playful nostalgia evaporated when Matt continued. "We lost track of time. I remember hearing whispers. I thought it was just the wind, but later, I saw shadows moving around the treehouse. I thought it was you guys messing with me." "What happened next?" I asked, feeling anxious. "I found a girl. She was sitting on the ladder, staring up at the roof. I just figured it was one of the neighborhood kids. But she wasn't like us." The look in her eyes made me feel uneasy. I turned and ran, and when I looked back, she was gone. His face was pale now. I swallowed hard. This just added to my fear. "Did anyone else see her?" "No," he said firmly. "No one." I never spoke about it until now. I wanted to laugh at him, to dismiss it as just childhood imagination. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the treehouse. It felt like a secret we never wanted to confront. When I left Matt's house, I felt a pull toward the treehouse again. I drove back, my heart racing as I neared the familiar street. The shadows of the trees loomed over the path, and unease curled in my stomach. I parked and made my way to the old wooden structure, drawn despite my fear that as I approached, I noticed the messages were clearer now. I could make out some letters. I even thought I saw a name. Sophia? I whispered to the emptiness. The name echoed back in my mind. Just then, a rustle caught my attention. I turned to see something dart between the trees. Was it a child? My breath quickened, but I stepped closer, compelled to follow. I peeked around the trunk of a large oak, and my breath caught. There, standing just beyond the treehouse, was a girl. She looked about 8 or 9, her hair wild and tangled. She was staring straight at me. I wanted to run, but I couldn't move. Then she smiled, a smile that felt too wide, almost unnatural. "Come play," she whispered. Her voice airy and distant. That's when I felt it. A rush of cold air surrounded me as the laughter echoed again, filling my ears. I stumbled backward, and in that moment, everything went dark. I woke up on the ground, disoriented. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, and the faint scent of damp wood filled my nostrils. Blinking away the fog, I pushed myself up. The treehouse loomed above me, but the girl was gone. I felt a mix of relief and disappointment. Was she real or just a trick of my mind? Swallowing hard, I stood up and brushed myself off. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the backyard. I took a few hesitant steps toward the treehouse, my heart still racing. I needed answers, but doubt gnawed at me. What was that girl trying to show me? As I examined the ground, something caught my eye, a small, tattered notebook partially hidden under some fallen leaves. It looked familiar. Kneeling down, I pulled it out and opened it. It was filled with drawings, childlike scribbles of the treehouse, some with strange figures lurking around it. They looked eerily similar to the girl. A chill ran down my spine. I flipped to the last page and found a single sentence written in a shaky hand. "Stay away from the shadows." My breath hitched. Had this been Sophia's? The girl Matt had described? The sun slipped behind the horizon, and the darkness deepened. I could feel the atmosphere shift, the shadows around me growing darker, as if they were alive. I needed to get out of there. I quickly stashed the notebook in my backpack and turned to leave when I heard a soft giggle. My heart dropped. It wasn't just the wind this time. I spun around, scanning the trees. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. No answer, just the rustling of leaves. Then I saw movement again, a fleeting shadow near the base of the treehouse. I squinted harder, and the girl appeared again, this time standing at the door of the treehouse. Her wild hair framed her face, and her smile felt even wider than before. "Come play with us," she beckoned, tilting her head to the side. I shook my head vigorously. "No." A chorus of laughter surrounded me, filling my ears with a cacophony of childish joy and mischief. I felt dizzy as the shadows deepened again, creating an overwhelming sensation of being trapped. Panic surged within me. "Stay away from the shadows," I shouted, the words spilling out before I could stop them. It seemed to cut through the laughter for a moment, but then I noticed movement in the shadows, more figures, seemingly emerging from the darkness, building in number. With adrenaline pumping through my veins, I turned and sprinted back toward my car. Each step echoed my heartbeat, my mind racing with terror. I fumbled for my keys as I reached the vehicle, glancing back at the treehouse. The girl stood at the door, her smile now devoid of warmth, and the shadows danced around her as if they had a life of their own. I jumped in, locked the doors, and sped away, the laughter echoing in my mind as I drove. I didn't want to go back. But what if the answer lay hidden in the treehouse? I knew I had to face whatever was waiting for me there. The next day, I couldn't shake the images from my mind. The girl, the laughter, and the shadows, they haunted me. I knew I had to go back to that treehouse. Each moment of hesitation only deepened my dread, but my curiosity pulled at me like a magnet. Armed with the notebook, I made my way back to the backyard. The air felt heavier today, as if the trees were holding their breath. I approached the base of the treehouse, my heart pounding against my ribcage. I spent a few careful moments peeking around, half expecting the girl to appear. The treehouse seemed more imposing now. I remembered the drawings and the warning. Stay away from the shadows. The words played in my mind like a broken record. But what if the shadows held the truth? What if the girl was trying to tell me something? I gathered my courage and stepped closer to the ladder. My hands trembled as I climbed up. Each step creaked under my weight, and I hesitated, half expecting the laughter to erupt again. But there was only silence. As I reached the top, I slowly pushed the door open. The inside of the treehouse was musty, and the light filtering through the windows felt faint. I glanced around. Old toys lay scattered on the floor, remnants of playtime long gone. But they felt wrong somehow, like forgotten relics from the past. That's when I noticed a new piece of furniture, a dusty mirror leaning against the wall. It wasn't there before. I approached it cautiously, and a shiver ran down my spine. The reflection stared back at me, not just mine. I could see flickers of movement in the glass, shadowy figures swirling behind me. I turned to look, but there was nothing there. My heart raced as I faced the mirror again. The shadows within danced more vigorously now. One shape stood out, familiar yet unsettling. It looked just like the girl. My breath caught in my throat. Then, without warning, the mirror rippled as if it were water. Dark tendrils stretched out from the glass, reaching toward me. I stumbled back, tripping over one of the old toys. Instinct kicked in and I fled from the treehouse, adrenaline taking over. I barely made it down the ladder when I felt a gust of wind behind me. I glanced back just in time to see the mirror shattering into countless shards, the figures disappearing with a burst of shadows. The laughter exploded around me again, echoing through the air, filling me with fear. I didn't stop running. I didn't want to remember what I had seen. The laughter chased me all the way to my car. Once inside, I slammed the door shut and took deep breaths, desperately trying to understand what had just happened. I needed to know what the figures in the mirror were. Then my phone buzzed. I looked down, my heart racing again. It was a message from Matt. I heard something happened at that treehouse. We need to talk. Fear gripped me again, not just for myself, but for what Matt might know. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was happening was bigger than all of us. And now I was deeper in than I ever intended to be. I drove away, but the sense of urgency grew. I had to meet Matt. I needed answers, but I also knew it might lead me further into the darkness. I met Matt at our usual cafe, nearly vibrating with pent-up anxiety. He was already seated at a corner table, his fingers drumming nervously on the wood. When I sat down, he glanced around as if checking for eavesdroppers. "Tell me what happened," he urged, his voice low that I hesitated. But his expression pushed me to share everything: the girl, the laughter, the mirror. Each word seemed to come out heavier than the last, like stones dropping in a well. As I recounted my experience, Matt's eyes widened. "That's what I was afraid of," he said, running a hand through his hair. "I've been hearing stories about that treehouse. Kids have gone missing and they say it's connected to the shadowy figures." Panic twisted in my stomach. "What do you mean connected? How?" "Last week, a kid from the neighborhood went in there and didn't come out for hours. When he finally did, he was different. He just sat there staring into space, not saying a word. When his mom asked him what happened, he whispered about shadows." My pulse quickened. The memory of shadows swirling in that mirror flashed in my mind. Does his mom know what's going on? She's been too scared to talk to anyone who might see the treehouse. But I found something weird while looking into it. Matt reached into his backpack, pulling out a hastily folded paper. Unfolding it, he slid it across the table. It was a crudely drawn map of the area with the treehouse marked prominently, surrounded by a tangle of dark lines. "I think they represent the shadows. I think they might be alive." Confusion washed over me. How could shadows be alive? "I don't know, but it's not just the treehouse. Other kids in the neighborhood have been having nightmares, seeing things in their dreams." My mind raced. What if it's connected to the treehouse? What if someone opened a door to something dark? Exactly. And we need to figure it out before it gets worse. The urgency settled in my chest like a lead weight. But I couldn't ignore the creeping dread. "What do we do?" "Tonight we go back to the treehouse," Matt said, determination in his voice. We have to confront whatever is happening. I felt my stomach drop again. The idea of returning to that place, of facing those shadows, sent chills through me. My head was spinning with fear. But what if we see the girl? Or worse? We need to know what we're dealing with, he replied, his eyes steady. You've seen it already, and now I think I believe you. I wanted to argue, but deep down I understood it was the only choice. I couldn't let the shadows take hold of more lives, including mine. I nodded slowly, fear clinging to my skin that as the evening wore on, we made our plans. The sun dipped low in the sky as a weight hung between us. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. I opened the message with shaky hands. It was from an unknown number. You can't escape the shadows. They're watching. I felt ice run through my veins. Before I could react, I glanced up at Matt, and his eyes reflected the same disbelief and horror. Something was coming, and I was about to step right into it. The sun had set by the time we arrived back at the treehouse. It loomed before us, shadowy and ominous, just as I remembered it. The wooden structure looked ancient, half hidden amongst the trees, like it was waiting for us to step inside. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Are you ready? Matt asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Not really, I admitted, but we both knew there was no turning back. With a cautious approach, we crept toward the base of the treehouse. The air around us felt heavy, charged with an energy that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Every creak of the wood beneath our feet sounded like a warning. Once at the entrance, I hesitated. What if we find something bad? Matt shrugged, his face serious. We won't know until we look. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open, creaked eerily, breaking the silence. Inside, the darkness swallowed us whole. The only light came from Matt's flashlight, cutting through the gloom and revealing the cluttered space. Old toys, forgotten games, and dust danced in the beam. But there was something else. In the corner of the room, a broken mirror caught the light. My heart raced as I stepped closer, remembering the girl and the shadows. The glass was cracked, and a spider web stretched across the shards. I reached out hesitantly, but Matt pulled me back. Wait, we need to look around first, he urged. Reluctantly, I stepped back. We began searching, opening boxes and shuffling through piles. Time slipped away as we rummaged, but there was no sign of the girl, or anything that explained what we were facing. Then something caught my eye. A notebook lay on the floor, half buried under a pile of dust. I picked it up, flipping through the pages. My heart pounded as I realized it was filled with drawings. Each sketch was a jumble of dark figures that looked eerily familiar. And then I saw it, the same girl I'd seen in the mirror. Matt, I said, my voice trembling as I showed him the drawing. He leaned over, eyes wide. Is that her? It has to be. But as I looked closer, I noticed something odd. In the margins, there were frantic notes, half written in messy scrawl. The shadows want her. Do not listen, it read. My head spun. What does that mean? Before Matt could respond, the air changed. A chill swept through the room, and suddenly, the shadows around us seemed to deepen. I felt a presence, something cold and watching. Did you feel that? I asked, anxiety prickling my skin. What? But before he could finish, a loud thud echoed from outside, followed by the sound of whispering. We froze, hearts pounding. Get down, Matt hissed, and we crouched behind a stack of boxes. That S when I saw it. A shadow moved outside, fast and low to the ground. It didn't look like anything human. It darted around the treehouse, as if searching for us. We need to go. Now, Matt whispered urgently. And in that moment, I knew we were no longer alone. I couldn't shake off the feeling of being hunted. The shadow outside slipped silently around the treehouse, and my breath came in shallow gasps. Matt and I exchanged terrified glances, both knowing that staying hidden might be our only chance. Suddenly, the whispering grew louder, a chilling chorus that seemed to surround us. I strained to hear what they were saying, but it was jumbled, like a radio with poor reception. Whatever it was, it felt like it was closing in. The shadows flickered, swirling in the corners, and my heart raced even faster. Do you think it's looking for us? I whispered, my voice shaking. I hope not, Matt replied, his eyes darting nervously around the room. He grabbed my arm, and I could feel him trembling. We have to find a way out of here. I nodded, but my mind raced. What about the notebook? We need to figure out what this is. Maybe it holds answers. Answers? Right now, I just want to escape, he said, glancing nervously at the door. Before I could speak again, a loud crash startled us. Something large hit the treehouse, shaking the floor. The sound echoed, drowning out the whispers. I felt the panic rise as I clutched the notebook tighter, not wanting to leave it behind. Let us check the window, I suggested. I crawled to the nearest one, peering out. The moonlight illuminated the yard outside, but I couldn't see anything moving. It's clear, I whispered back, feeling a surge of hope. We should go then. Matt moved next to me, his determination growing. Just as we reached the window, another crash hit the side of the treehouse, this time louder. The shadows gathered closer, and I could feel something dark and heavy in the air. I turned to see Matt's face, his expression a mix of fear and resolve. Now, he shouted, and we both scrambled to the window, pushing it open. The cool night air filled the treehouse but carried an unsettling vibe. As we hesitated at the edge, a strange sound pierced the silence, a giggle, soft and childlike. My heart dropped. It was the same voice I had heard in my dreams, the voice that lured me here. Come play, it called. I froze, caught in its pull. Matt gripped my arm tightly. Don't listen, he yelled, shaking me. We have to go. That snapped me back to reality. We climbed out the window, scrambling onto the narrow branch. Jump, Matt urged, and without thinking, I leaped down, landing hard but safe on the ground. But when I turned back, Matt wasn't following. He hesitated, staring into the darkness of the treehouse. The giggle echoed once more, sending a chill down my spine. Matt, come on, I cried, my panic rising. Then, everything changed. The shadows inside surged forward, twisting and flailing as Matt's eyes widened with terror. He stepped back, lost in a trance. I can hear her, he whispered. No, I shouted. You have to fight it. But he just stood there, seemingly unable to break free. The shadows curled around the doorway, reaching out toward him. I was frozen, paralyzed by fear. Then, without warning, the whispers turned into a deafening roar, filling my mind with confusion and dread. I couldn't just leave him. Matt, I screamed, but the words felt swallowed by the night. And just like that, a brutal silence fell. The shadows receded, the whispers faded out, and I was left standing alone, the darkness of the treehouse stretching into the unknown behind me. I turned to run, my heart pounding and my mind racing. I glanced back one last time at the treehouse, the broken mirror reflecting nothing but darkness. The girl's giggle echoed in my head. Whatever had happened to Matt, I was certain now that the treehouse held secrets darker than I could ever imagine. And as I sprinted away, I realized it was far from over. I ran through the thick underbrush, my legs pumping and my breath coming in ragged gasps. The forest loomed around me, dark and unfamiliar, every whisper of wind sounding like a warning. My mind raced back to Matt. The look on his face when the shadows took hold was burned into my memory. Would I ever see him again? I stumbled over a tree root and crashed to the ground. It felt as if the forest was alive, watching me, ready to pounce. I glanced back toward the treehouse, but it was just a silhouette against the moonlit sky now, a dark sentinel guarding its secrets. I could still hear that awful giggle in my head. Pulling myself up, I felt something press into my leg. The notebook. I quickly flipped it open, the pages rough beneath my fingers. I had to focus. Maybe it would help me understand what just happened. I came to the last few entries, frantic and scribbled. The words spoke of a girl with dark hair and a sweet smile, who lured children into playing games with her. She wants you to stay forever, one entry warned. My heart raced as I scanned the page. Don't look into her eyes. What did that even mean? I didn't have time to figure it out now. I shoved the notebook into my backpack and took off again. But then I heard the sound that made my blood run cold. Footsteps. Soft, shuffling, almost childlike. I glanced over my shoulder, but there was only darkness where I expected to see the treetops. "Stop it!" I yelled, partly to the forest and partly to myself. I couldn't let fear take control. I sprinted faster, ducking low branches and leaping over fallen logs. My thoughts spun. I needed to find safety, somewhere I could think clearly. I needed help. I wasn't sure how long I ran, but the sounds faded. Silence returned, heavy and eerie. I stumbled onto a narrow path that seemed vaguely familiar. It led to the old playground by the edge of the forest, a place my friends and I visited to escape. I desperately hoped it would provide a sanctuary. But as I emerged from the trees, a chilling realization hit me. The swings were still and empty. The slide towered against the night sky like a ghost of childhood memories. Yet it felt wrong. And that's when I saw the figure standing by the merry-go-round, a silhouette bathed in moonlight. My breath caught in my throat. Whoever or whatever it was watching me. I hesitated, my instincts shouting at me to run, but I stood frozen, heart racing. Then the figure stepped forward, the face illuminated by the moon. It was a girl. Her dark hair hung loosely around her face, and an unsettling grin spread across her lips. "You came back," she said, her voice sweet and sinuous, echoing in the empty playground. "Get away from me," I shouted. I turned to flee, but my feet wouldn't move. She laughed, the sound echoing like broken glass. "I just want to play." Then everything around me started to warp. The swings creaked and the merry-go-round spun without wind. I realized I might not make it out this time. I had to fight. "Matt!" I screamed, hoping somehow he could hear me. But the laughter grew louder, drowning out my voice. In that moment, I understood that escaping the treehouse was just the beginning. The darkness was still reaching for me, and something told me it wouldn't stop until it had both of us. And as the laughter echoed, I realized I wasn't just running from a girl. I was running from something ancient and powerful that wanted to claim me. I was frozen, trapped in a nightmare. The girl stood before me, her smile stretching impossibly wide, as if she reveled in my fear. I could feel some invisible force pushing against me, keeping me rooted while chaos unfolded around us. "Why won't you play?" she cooed, her voice a mix of honey and poison. "So much fun." As she spoke, the playground seemed to come alive. The swings swayed slowly, creaking like tired ghosts, while the merry-go-round spun faster, its colors blurring into a whirl of shadows. I swallowed hard. "No!" I yelled, breaking past whatever held me in place. I darted toward the exit, ignoring the heavy swing of the air around me. But as I ran, the laughter twisted in the air, wrapping me in a cocoon of dread. Suddenly, I stumbled again, hitting the ground hard. I quickly scrambled up and glanced back. The girl had stopped, her grin replaced with a frown that revealed something darker. "You can't leave," she said, and her voice had shifted, dropping into a tone that felt ancient and foreboding. She took a step forward, and instinctively, I backed away. But the playground's borders felt like they were closing in, forcing me to confront her. I had to push through whatever she was using against me. Taking a deep breath, I shouted, "What do you want?" "Just a friend," she replied with a tilt of her head, darkness creeping back into her eyes. "Someone to play with forever, like him." A chill ran through me as she pointed toward the shadows behind the trees. "Matt," I called, panic overtaking my body. "Matt." But the darkness swallowed my voice, and I fell silent, eyes darting around for any sign of him. That's when I remembered something from the notebook, the part about the games. "I'm not playing," I shouted at her, the memories rushing back. "Games are dangerous. You're trying to trick me." Her eyes darkened further, and the playground began to tremble. The ground shook beneath my feet, and I felt the energy swirling, threatening to pull me down. Desperation surged, and I sprinted back the way I came, determined to find a way out. I didn't look back. The laughter was gone, replaced by the hollow crack of wood and an unsettling silence. I dashed toward the tree line, crashing through the underbrush, barely keeping my footing. The sounds of the playground faded, but somewhere in my mind, I could still hear her whispering, "You'll be back." As I emerged from the thicket, my feet hit soft grass, and I slowed down to catch my breath. My thoughts were jumbled. What had just happened? I glanced at the notebook still clutched in my hand. I had to read more about this girl. Where was Matt, and why did she mention him? I looked around, feeling a twinge of guilt for leaving him behind. I had to help him. He wouldn't have chosen to stay in this awful place. I needed to keep moving. But as I turned to go, a cold breeze swept by me. I shivered, feeling that familiar, unsettling presence return. I quickened my pace, the grass giving way to dirt, heading back to the heart of the forest. There had to be answers waiting for me. I just hoped I wouldn't find them too late. The moon hung high in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. My breath came in labored gasps as I retraced my steps toward the treehouse, the weight of the notebook heavy in my backpack. It felt like I was walking back into a nightmare, but I couldn't abandon Matt. The shadows had claimed him, and I feared I was running out of time. As I spotted the treehouse through the trees, an unsettling chill enveloped me. The place looked the same, wooden, worn down, and strangely inviting despite everything I had experienced. I hesitated for a moment, but my resolve hardened. I had to confront this creature haunting me. With the notebook as my guide, I climbed up the rickety ladder, my heart pounding in sync with my footfalls. Once inside, the musty air wrapped around me, thick with a sense of foreboding. Dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through the cracks, illuminating the remnants of childhood scattered throughout. Toys, old blankets, and drawings. But the atmosphere felt distorted, charged with a strange energy. I could almost hear whispers nascent, echoing off the wooden walls. I made my way to the corner where I had seen the broken mirror. The shards sparkled ominously in the low light, a dark reflection of what had just transpired. I had to confront the shadows, to rally my strength against whatever dark force was at work here. Just then, I heard the soft giggle drifting through the room, and I froze, a cold shiver skittering down my spine. The girl appeared at the doorway, her dark hair framing her face, eyes alight with mischief. "You came back," she said with that same unnerving grin. "No games," I warned. "I'm not here to play." She pouted for a brief moment, then tilted her head. "But it's so much fun." The shadows behind her began to swirl, creeping forward like hungry animals. "Leave us alone," I shouted, fumbling with the notebook in my bag. My hands trembled as I flipped through the pages, heart racing. I needed a way to fight back, something to ground me in the reality of what was happening. I found the frantic notes about the girl, the warnings. If she wanted a friend, then perhaps I had to reclaim my own power. That S when I remembered the last entry, the one about staying away from the shadows. "Why do you want Matt?" I demanded, lifting my chin defiantly. "Because he chose to play," she said, her voice dropping an octave, the innocence fading from her tone. "And now he's mine." A wave of panic crashed against my resolve, but I didn't waver. "You can't keep him. You don't own him." The shadows pulsed, flickering around her like angry waves, but I pressed on. "Who are you really?" The girl's smile faltered. "A friend," she insisted, though her voice now held an edge of something darker. "You will see. You'll join us too." "No," I shouted, and, in a burst of adrenaline, I hurled the notebook in her direction. "You're not taking anyone else." The notebook struck the floor and burst open, drawings of the shadowy figures scattered across the pages. In a split second, the atmosphere shifted. The shadows recoiled, almost pained, and from the swirling mass emerged echoes of laughter that morphed into wails of anguish. The girl looked startled, her eyes darting between the spread of images and me. "What have you done?" she screeched, the cheerfulness vanishing. I took advantage of her surprise and rushed to the mirror. "This is your prison," I shouted. "You can't control everything." The mirror seemed to tremble at my words, and the figures trapped within rattled, casting horrified glances at their captor. The girl surged forward as my voice resonated, desperation in her demeanor. "You don't understand. she cried out amidst the chaos. I can show you things. I can make you play. Ignoring her pleas, I reached out, pressing my palm against the glass. The shadows reached for me, pulling at my feet, but I focused, channeling my fear into strength. I don't want your games, I declared loudly. The mirror vibrated, shivering under the weight of raw emotion. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the shards, illuminating the room with a brilliance that drove back the darkness. I felt the shadows retreating, dimming as the laughter faded into an echo. Without thinking, I stepped back from the mirror, my heart racing. As the light engulfed the girl, her figure shimmered and began to dissolve, her expression twisting from anger to confusion. No, you can't leave, she screamed, hands outstretched, but I could feel the power shift. And just like that, she vanished, leaving behind a still silence that enveloped the treehouse. The air felt clearer now, the shadows receding to a safe distance. My heart was still racing as I turned towards the open door. Matt, I called, voice trembling. Can you hear me? I stood at the threshold, desperate for a response. A moment passed, and then I heard a soft whispering echo from the depths of the treehouse. I stepped outside, the familiar cool air filling my lungs as I searched for any sign of him. Faintly, I felt remnants of his spirit lingering, but the feeling was faint. Like the distant aftertaste of sorrow, part of me ached to stay and uncover the full depth of what had happened. But I knew deep down that more questions loomed than answers. Could I ever retrieve Matt? Were the events a spiraling descent into darkness? Or was it simply something more human that lingered? I turned, hastily leaving the treehouse behind. The darkness still lingered in the corners of my mind, an unsettled whisper of laughter in the air. I still think about Matt sometimes. Have I really freed him or just delayed the inevitable? I moved to a different city after that. There are days when I wonder if the treehouse still stands, if shadows continue to lurk beneath the watchful trees. But mostly I try not to think about it.